only mode.
Well, hello everybody. Hello on Facebook. Dave Fennoy here. Ask Dave Fennoy anything for 4/18/18. I don't know about you. Does it seem like the year is going by extremely fast this year? I don't know what it is. I think sometimes the older you get, the faster it seems to go by, which is very unfair. Hey, Michael, how you doing? Deb Sommerfeld, how you doing? First of all, hey, ask Dave Fennoy anything. That's what it's all about. So get your questions, jot them down. If something I'm about to talk about strikes, give me a question there. A lot of times, especially people who are just beginning, but I find often, even with people who have been in this business for a while, that they're not quite sure who they are. They haven't found their voice. They're not sure. And sometimes it becomes more difficult the more versatile you are with your voice. And maybe you've been doing a lot of character work, and you've got this voice and that voice, and now somebody asks you to just be you, and you're a little confused. I know from time to time that is, excuse me, I'm burping. I don't know why that is. From time to time that has happened to me. You've been promos, and you're doing some cartoons, and you're doing some video games, and then somebody says, "Oh yeah, well we just want you, just be you," and you scratch your head. Gosh, who am I? Well, some ideas about finding out who you really are. You know, we're used to not really listening to ourselves on a regular day-to-day basis, what we sound like. A lot of people, when you start voiceover, you hear your voice for the first time coming through the speakers, and you're like, oh, God, is that me? Oh, I sound terrible. Well, you've been listening to yourself in your head voice all the time because we don't really hear ourselves through our ears. We hear ourselves through our heads. And sometimes we're not sure. Most of us live a life where we're really not paying attention to what we sound like. We're just saying what we say and being who we are. Well, once you get into voiceover and somebody hands you a script and the job is to make somebody else's words your own, and they want it to be you, sometimes people are a little confused. So I'm going to give you some ideas about how do you kind of find out who you are, because how you show up should be a reflection of who you really are. The things that you've been through in your life, where you are, the age you are, the level of education, all those things are going to come into play. So, first of all, and I know you've heard this before, ask some friends and some strangers. It can be a little weird now. You're in a coffee shop and asking strangers. I think, Starbucks now won't throw you out for that. But ask some friends, what does your voice make them feel like? How would they describe your voice? Are you funny? Does your voice, is it odd? Is it quirky? Listening to you, does it give them a sense of trustworthiness? Are you powerful? Are you tough? What does the level of education say? Do you sound like a blue-collar person? Do you sound like somebody who is understanding? All these kinds of questions and answers can kind of help you start down that road to finding out who you really are and what you really sound like. Now, keep in mind, who you think you are and what you sound like to other people may be two different things. You may be not very sure of yourself, and inside this is your voice because you're just kind of like, I don't know. But outside, it sounds like you know everything that you're saying, that you have an understanding of every aspect of the world. So don't be surprised if your image of yourself is different from the image of yourself that the people listening to you are. I'm going to suggest something else, too. Write a couple of stories. They don't have to be long, 30 seconds, 60 seconds. Talk about something you love. Write about something you love. Don't make the language flowery. Write it, a stream of consciousness. This is not about perfect wording and being literary. It's about getting these words out about how you feel about something that you love. Also do it with something that you don't love, something that you don't even like. Write some stories, your perfect day, the kinds of things you love to do, the kinds of things you don't love to do, the kinds of things you would like to have, and then record those stories. But record them, one, I'm having you write them as you, as the things that touch you, because you'll hear your voice in your head and then tell those stories. Another thing to do, kind of a subconscious, because hopefully you won't remember while you're doing it. You've all got these phones. They've got all kinds of recording devices on. You got friends over? Click the record button. Just set the phone there and hear what you sound like. You're going to have to record for a little while so you forget that you're recording. Hear what you sound like when you're just hanging with your friends. Doesn't matter what the situation is. It could be a fun time. It could be discussing a project you're going to do. You could be doing it with family. Now, this isn't for you to share with other people. It's just so you can hear what you sound like in various situations of normal life. And hopefully those things, these few suggestions will help you really get a sense of who you are, so that when you pick up that copy that's somebody else's words, you can come from a more real place. And it's something we all have to do. All too often, we're looking at somebody else's words. Oh yeah, well, I'll go up here and I'll slow it down here and I'll do this. That's not the process. That's backwards. We want to go from inside out, not from outside in. So, anyway, those are my 2 cents. And let's go up here and look on Facebook. Fred's not with us today, and don't have any questions here from. Oh, okay. We'll start here on GoToWebinar. Laurel, how are you? Which is more important to get an LA agent, specifically for promo, a referral, or an awesome demo that's cold submitted? Which is more important? Well, you need things to kind of work together. Before you're going to get an LA agent or an agent anywhere, you're going to need a demo that is really, really good. Now, you're talking about promo here. You mentioned that specifically. You need a really good demo, and I would say you also need a referral. Sometimes you could probably get away without a referral, but that's going to be very rare. And that would take time, not to say you shouldn't spend the time. If you're doing it without a referral, be ready for, first of all, not getting a response. And then if you get a response, the response being thanks but no thanks, unless your demo is just killer. And you might want to, even though you get a no, continue from time to time to get back in touch with that agent and be gracious and thankful that they took the time to get back to you to say no, because agents are busy. They don't have to do that. And hopefully you can knock on the door often enough and brief enough that at some point they go, we could use somebody like you. Let them know the kinds of work you're doing, that kind of thing. Well, let's go up to Facebook here and see what we've got. Well, rolling back there. Kevin Sean, what's going on, man? And Tara is watching. When will you reappear on the amazing Spawn Me podcast again? I don't know. They'll have to ask me, and I'll be happy to do it whenever they do. Right. Kevin, okay. Where do you keep the portrait that ages instead of you? Is it in the attic? Oh, I love you, Kev, because Lord knows I'm aging. Do you do any exercises to remember a character's voice and personality between sessions? Stop that. Or do you simply listen back to your previous works? Good question. And this is the kind of thing that happens in cartoons and video games, but it could also happen in other areas if you are creating a persona, say, for something. But specifically in cartoons and video games, once you get on the job, if it's the first time you're playing this character, they're going to play back your audition and let you hear what you sound like. If you've been playing this character over and over for a number of years, they're going to, once again, play back some of your performances, your previous performances, so you can get right back to it. So that's how that happens. Here's a question I have, and then nothing. Okay, well, let's go back over here. Okay. This is exactly what I needed to hear today, but I'm not sure which one I said that was. Oh, you're welcome. I'm getting into a spot where all the marketing I've done is starting to snowball. It's a little frightening because I'm not sure I can handle the volume. How do you deal with sudden influx of business, and how do you delegate which client to pay attention to over another? I'm going to answer that, but it reminds me of when I was first getting into business. I was living in San Francisco, and I'd go over to my agent's office, and you're sitting around with other guys that are, new in the business. We're all waiting. We're going to go in and audition. Maybe we'll book something. And there was a guy who was working all the time, and he would come out and say hello. And one time he did this thing. He goes, "Oh, man, I got so much. I wish I could just give some of this work away." And but he was kidding us, of course. Well, if you've got more work than you can handle, well, count your blessings. Better than having no work at all. I would look at a couple of things. One, you don't want to treat any of your clients badly, but the clients who are paying you the most money and who it appears are going to have the most longevity. Repeat business. I'm going to tell you, if you want to have a long career and do well financially, pay attention to repeat business. You want repeat business. You want people that come back every week, every month. When you look at, say, like TV promos, one TV promo doesn't really pay that well. But when you're a network voice or you're a cable voice over and over promoting this show and that show and this show and that show, those 30s, 20s, 15s, 5s, and all the tags add up. If you've got a retail business that needs to have you come back again and again every month, there's another sale. That adds up. So I would pay attention to A, who's paying the best rate, and B, who's going to be repeat business, maybe in reverse order. But once again, don't treat any of those people badly. You don't know what it's going to turn into in the long run. All right. Let's what's the most challenging and rewarding character you've tackled? I appreciate the questions about my career, but I really want to answer questions that help you further your career. I'm going to say, in terms of let's talk video games here. Lee Everett, I would say, was the most rewarding character because Lee Everett gave me the most gifts. The game won 100 Game of the Year awards. I was nominated for Best Voice in a Video Game 6 times, won a couple. I was nominated for a BAFTA, got to go to the ceremony in London, and lost, unfortunately. But it took me from being that voice actor. It's like, think of your favorite character actors whose names you don't know, but you see them all the time. Oh, yeah, I love him or I love her. And then they're nominated for an Oscar or an Emmy or something. And now, Oscar nominated, and now we remember their name. That's what that character did for me. On occasion, I have issues when reading copy with my brain moving faster, anticipating words. How do I keep my mind in check to read what is on the page without inserting expected words? Well, I do that too sometimes. And what happens is our brain anticipates what we think it's going to be. Whether you know it or not, once we've heard our language year after year, we expect certain phrases to follow certain other phrases. And sometimes if somebody reverses words, it's a little funny for us. Sometimes if there's a mistake, sometimes there'll be a mistake in the copy. They'll say write two times or the two times, or misspell a word or have something out of sequence. And your brain does two things. One, it realizes what it should be and wants to go there, but your eyes have seen the wrong thing, and now your eyes and your brain start challenging each other, and you start making mistakes. You want to read ahead. You want to read ahead. And what you should do, Alfonso, I think, is read it a couple of times. Make sure you've gone over that copy a couple of times. If you're auditioning, of course, you got no problem. You're at home, you take your time with it. And we all do this. We all make mistakes. If you're on the job, once you're in that booth, now this is not going to help you so much with cartoons and video games, because you typically are doing the job the moment you're seeing the copy. But if you're doing commercials, or TV promos, read that. You've got time. It's not they're not long scripts, 60 seconds. Or read it over a couple of times and slowly. Read it. You don't read it the first time for performance. Read it to get the words in your mouth. When you're auditioning at home, read it one time to get the words into your mouth so that you know what you're saying. I tell students to do what I call a 3 and 3 when you're at home auditioning, and you generally don't have enough time to do that, say with a commercial, TV promos when you're on the job, but unless you're working at home. Read it 3 times. The first, or the 3 and 3, it's 6 times. 3 times to yourself in your head without your lips moving, and 3 times just kind of mouthing the words. And by the time you start, then the words are only there to remind you of what you're saying, and you will have had an opportunity to look over whatever crazy syntax they're using that you would not have used had you written it. All right.
Dave, I'm here, by the way.
Oh, there's Fred. I knew you were busy. Yes. Welcome.
I was just showing my house to a family of 4.
Oh, well, did they buy it?
I'm hoping.
I hear you. Well, welcome in. Did you have anything you wanted to add before we continue?
No, but did you take some of the questions here, or were you taking Facebook?
Okay, I was taking both, and we're down to let's say the Daniel question there, that last one there, and you know how they are; they come in slow. Okay. So let me go run up and take another Facebook question, and welcome in.
Okay.
All right. Okay. What's the relative square footage of your booth? Is there a particular manufacturer you would recommend? Well, I have what's probably the most used or manufacturer of booths, a Whisper Room. That has been the industry standard for a long time, but we have some other great companies out there. Vocal Booth, I think they're still in business. And new one, fairly new, Studio Bricks, that a lot of people like. Now, my booth is 5 by 7, which is a decent-sized booth. There was a time I had a 4 by 4, and for me that just felt a little too small. There are people that it works for. I think if you're doing a lot of animation in video games and you're moving your body around, you may end up banging the walls with your hands. I'll make another recommendation. If you have the money to buy a nice new Whisper Room or Studio Bricks or something, look for a used one first. I don't think you're going to find too many used studio bricks because they're a new company. There are a lot of whisper rooms and vocal booths out there. And a lot of times people, they're musicians, they're producers, they're voiceover people who decide they don't need it, they've moved on, they've built their own studio, and this booth they need to get rid of, and they're just happy to sell it, and for a reasonable price. My booth I bought from a guy in Chicago. I just looked on Craigslist, and you could use Craigslist and eBay. Just Google vocal booths, whisper rooms for sale. And this booth would have cost me about $9,500 had I bought it new. The gentleman sold it to me for $3,000. I had to have it shipped, which was $1,400. So I still ended up getting the thing for about half price. And there's not much you can do to them. You know, I mean, they just sit there. So it's not like, oh, geez, the moving parts. I'm going to have to replace the pistons. Oh, this thing needs a whole new engine. There's no moving parts except the door. All right. Good question. Randy Thomas, what's going on, girl? And hello, Dave. You're the best. Oh, thank you. Oh, that's very kind of you to say. I will do my best to keep it rocking. Everyone says take it serious and do it full time. What's your best advice on how to get the ball rolling fast enough to be able to afford that reality? Well, you know, everybody starts somewhere. I can't think of anybody who started at the top. When I started my career in voiceover, fortunately, I had been a successful disc jockey in Northern California, so I had some money saved when I decided to come down here. But save your money. And I've talked about this before. There are people who want to take on a career that, like voiceover, being a musician, being an actor, becoming a disc jockey or something that you know, there's just not. It's not like being a secretary or a nurse or some other job that you know you can readily get hired for because there's lots of them. You got to take a leap of faith. Prepare yourself. Make sure that your demos are right. And these days, you can actually kind of start part-time. You can have that job and sign up with one of the pay-to-play sites. Have your website together with your demos and an easy way to get in touch with you. There's a lot of work out there that is not what I call the high-profile work. Still pays great. I know people that you're never going to hear them on the radio or on television or on a video game, but they're making plenty of money doing audiobooks and corporate narration and e-learning. That's a place to start. But without an agent, it's the pay-to-play sites, and it's your own efforts in finding people in those areas that can hire you. And thank goodness for Google. Hope that answers your question.
I have a question here.
Go ahead.
You want one here?
Sure.
How often would you say, Brian is asking, how often would you say you get work for animation and video games to do at your home studio as opposed to in the client's location?
Well, more often than not, for animation and video games, I am working in somebody else's studio. And almost all the time with animation, I am working in somebody else's studio. The video game business is international enough that I have clients, developers who are in Norway or South Africa or France or Australia and places in the Far East that are doing games, and they are open to recording you from your home studio. But the majority of that work is going to be done in a studio in LA, Dallas, Austin, San Francisco, and some of the other towns that have a lot of high-tech business and a company there, or companies.
Okay, I've got others, but why don't you go back to Facebook?
Okay. Hey, Laura Woodhull. I'm looking into California agents finally after VO Atlanta. Disney is my goal. Who are your 5 you'd recommend? Well, I'm probably going to leave somebody else, but CESD, my agent, loved them. SBV, my first agent, loved them. TGMD, which was Tischerman, was an agent I had, and I really like them. There is Vox, is also a very good agent, and you cannot not mention Atlas. Now, there are some other good agents, but those 5 are some of the top 5 in town. I'll throw in a bonus DPN. So there you go. Oh, and let's see. Alexei Ryan, or Alexei? Oh, anyway. Have you seen the barrier to entry change since you started? I have a great character demo trained with some of the best, Adam Harrington, and I'll be seeing you and others in Normandy and have a studio at home. Have I seen a barrier to entry, change since I started? I've seen the whole business change. The business model is very different now than it once was. You have a lot of people having successful careers without the benefit of an agent, without being in the union. Now, if you're talking about video games, animation, national commercials, the majority of those are still going through agents and the union, but there's a lot of work out there that just isn't. So, but let's go back to the barrier to entry. There are more people doing this business now than ever before. So if anything, there are fewer barriers there than there used to be.
You want another question here?
Oh, sure.
Okay. Thomas is saying that Carlos, I may butcher his name,
Alazraki.
is coaching.
I just ran into him at a gig the other day.
Yeah. So he's saying Carlos is coaching him on Monday on his character and video game demo. He says hi. And he said he saw you coming out of an audition.
Yes.
How do you do a typical coaching? How do you do a typical coaching session? What is the process you use?
And you know what? I think he told me about you. I mean, I was coming out, he was coming in, and I hadn't seen him in a while, and we greeted one another. And he said, "Oh man, I've got this guy that needs to work with you. He wants to do video games, and I'm more animation, and I'll send him your way." So I think that's you. Well, first of all, I talk about my philosophy of character acting for video games, how it differs from acting for animation, how you create a character, and I take a really inside-out approach. And what's your character thinking? What's your character feeling? What's your character doing? What's the relationship between the character and whoever the character's talking to? If you can have a clear understanding of those 4 things, it will work in every scene. And video game characters a little different. Usually with most animation or any kind of work as an actor, your character has a major part. Sometimes your character, hey, they went that way, and that's all of it is. But if you've got a major character, typically your character has an arc. In a video game, your character could have several arcs because the player gets to choose the direction of the story, which means it choose the direction you as a character play, which is actually more like life than not. None of us know. We know our final outcome. We're all going to die at some point. But between now and then, we don't know exactly what's going to happen. We show up as ourselves. We have our emotions. We have our victories, our losses. And we go through life who we are, reacting and sometimes causing things to happen based on who we are and what we run into. Same thing happens in video games. So you can't base your character on, oh, I know he's going to end up being this, and I know this, so blah, 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 blah. No. What is your character like? What's his temperament? All those kinds of things, because sometimes the character is going to show up as a good guy, sometimes not so good, kind of like we do in real life. So you just have to play the character without thought about what the character's ultimate outcome is. You do need to know the goal in front of you, but you may not know what the ultimate outcome is on that character. Did I ramble too much with that? Probably. But
no, it's just about enough rambling.
Oh, let me look up here.
Go ahead. Grab a Facebook call.
When I do work with people and they take time to hear the demo, response is great. Oh, great. That was from Alexi. Well, good. But let me tell you, there's a lot of talent out there. There are a lot of good demos. And it's great that you have a great demo. That's exactly what you want. But you have to do more. You have to promote yourself. You have to keep coming back. You know, sometimes it's a little surprising to me, and I even have to tell myself this sometimes. We want to be rewarded just for our good work, and wouldn't it be great if that was completely the world we live in? But we have to advertise. We have to let people know that we're there. We have to offer our services. Notice I didn't say ask for a job. We have to put ourselves in the path of their attention so we'll get noticed. I guarantee the stuff you buy has been advertised. I'm seeing something on the internet now that is like no brand, no name, but they're advertising that this brand is no name brand. The world needs to see you in order to beat that path to your door. So find your ways of promoting yourself. All right. Alfonso, I will follow the 3 of 3 advice. Gabriel Kunda, how was the surgery today, Gabriel? I noticed Gabriel is a tremendous talent. He had his wisdom teeth pulled today, and I had a deep cleaning done today, and I wasn't sure I was going to be able to do this for a while. I was kind of like this. They only did one side, and it was terrible. But so next week I'll go back for the other side.
I've got one here.
Okay.
This is a problem everyone should have. I'm getting into a spot where all the marketing
is
starting to
Yeah. No, I did that one. I did that one. So
okay. I've got another one.
Okay.
Dave, have you heard anything about the new Chaotica Fat Boy?
I have not. The Chaotica Fat Boy. I almost want to look it up. Let's take a look and see,
what it is.
And see what it is. And you can
do it on stereo.
You can talk about something else while I'm.
Okay. This is funny. Siri is kind of ridiculous. Chaotica Fat. Let me see here. See what you come up with. Chaotica Fat Boy.
I see Chaotica. I do not see Chaotica Fat Boy. And that would be the kind of thing, good marketing would be, it would pop right up there. The evolution.
Yeah.
I don't see it. I'll have to look it up. What I would like to see them do is come up with one for shotgun mics.
Nice.
But
Tim was saying he followed up his question with, I just heard from Chaotica today. They're planning on full production release this year. If you can tell us what it is, Tim, I'd be anxious to know, as well as I'm sure Dave would be also.
Yeah, and for those who don't know what a Chaotica eyeball is to begin with, it's a big foam ball, and it has a hole that you stick your mic in, and then it has a little screen on it. Your mic is facing that, and you can be in places where the rooms aren't treated and sound bounces, but if you use that, it will sound like you're in a studio. And I have found they work very well. It's a little different than just being in your studio, but it does what it says it will do. And for my travel gear now, I always have the Chaotica Eyeball, which fits in my suitcase, my little Apogee mic or a Sennheiser MK4 with the Apogee connection. And then it's just my iPad and or laptop. Good to go.
Cool. Got other ones up there?
Oh, yeah. Let's see. Hey, Craig Young, what's the best way to determine what kind of voice work suits you? Should you try everything, books, games, corporate videos, then go niche? Well, different people do different things. I'll look at somebody, my buddy Joe Cipriano. He just rules the roost doing promos. And you don't hear him do a lot of other things. But why should he? He's made millions doing that. And I saw something on Facebook earlier today talking about the categories of voice work, and they were naming, voice actors do animation and video games, and then there's a category of narrators and a category of and then it's voice artists if you do it all. And I fall into the voice artist category. I do some of everything. I suggest doing what you really enjoy doing, what you're good at. And I guess part of that question is, how do you know you're good at it? And that means trying out different categories. I think most people have an idea of what it is they want to do and what they're good at as they get into this business. But I've also noticed that different genres start looking for different things. There was a time when big, deep-voiced guys were ruling the commercial world. Well, that's not the case anymore. Now it's the guy or girl next door. So just because you don't have the voice that seems to be in vogue for a particular genre right now doesn't mean the kind of voice you have won't be in vogue a year or 2 or 5 from now. So I would suggest becoming as well-rounded in as many genres as possible. Got another one there?
Sounds good.
I do.
Tim is saying, shotgun mics, Chaotica, they stay, are more difficult to design for. Maybe 2019 for shotguns and similar front address mics.
Yeah.
And then I go to another question here as well.
Mm-hmm. Sub says he has an issue with thinking I can always do it better and feel it takes me longer to get stuff done. Is there a better way to get it done faster? Does the phrase better done than perfect have a place in the business?
Well, I don't think there's perfection. I can't tell you how many times I've listened back to work I've done where I did 2 or 3 takes of a particular line, a particular commercial, a particular promo, and then I hear it back. Why did they use that take? As actors and human beings, we just want it to be perfect. And sometimes in our trying to be perfect, I'm gonna hear everything perfectly. It's just gonna be. A lot of times we actually lose the life of the commercial or the performance we're trying to do. So have you ever heard a band that the recording wasn't all that crisp and clean, but the feel was so good? Yeah.
Yep.
Well, I'm gonna say the same thing. We strive for perfection. But you want it to be believable. You want it to touch people's hearts and heads. And once you've achieved that, I think you can let it go. I listen back sometimes to reads that people love of mine, and I hate them. And I have heard reads that I thought, oh, that was just fantabulous. It was flawless. And then I have heard it a few more times, and I hear the mistakes. I hear the things that aren't perfect. But how it touched me was perfect.
I've got a question here from Angus. What's the make of your webcam? It creates a very crisp image that others don't have. He's asking, what webcam are you using?
This is the webcam that right now. Now, I have another one in the studio, but this is the webcam that comes on my iMac. There you go. In my booth, I have a webcam. It's Logitech. 8 high definition, and it's really good too. Let's see. I was assigned to an agency after submitting my commercial demo for review. It was my first demo and my 8th submission. Lesson in that: the contact at the agency has told me he would send me auditions once he's able to identify it. I also was instructed to sign up for 2 caring sites, which have not been helpful in the least. Which is the appropriate way to correspond with an agent that has not been in touch? Well, what good is an agent that's not in touch with you, that's not sending you auditions? I would get in touch with them and ask them exactly what it is their intention is. I was talking to an actor buddy of mine, just fired his manager and agent the other day, because although they signed him, they weren't sending him out on the things he wanted to go out on. He's a good actor. And you have to kind of take control of your career. Getting an agent is not the easiest thing in the world, but they're working for you. Once somebody signs you, it's incumbent upon them to help you develop your career. Which means sending you auditions that fit what you can do, and promoting you to people who hire. They're only going to do so much promotion because they got a lot of clients. But they at least need to be sending you auditions. And if they don't seem to be really on your team, join another team. Excuse me.
I think there's always that fine line when somebody gets an agent that they feel they don't want to blow any chances or.
Well, I've got an agent now. I don't want to bother him. And I understand that feeling, but you do. You don't want to be that person that's calling me every, I didn't get anything today. And you don't want to be that whiny actor, but we're professionals. You got to let your agent know who you are and what it is you want to do. When they signed you, that's what they signed up for. They're not expecting you to call every day and whine about this, that, and the other. But they do expect communication from you, even in an email. Hey, just want to let you know these are the directions I want to go in. I've done this new demo that promotes this, and let them know what you're doing to promote your career and what you expect of them.
I've got a good follow-up to that, Dave. Mm-hmm. How common is it for an agent to ask you to sign an exclusivity agreement to work with them and them only?
Well, in different towns, it's that's the way it is. In Los Angeles, if you sign with an agent here, you are exclusive to that agent in this town. Multiple agents around the country and the world actually has become commonplace. So I don't think you're going to find people that tell you can't have more than them as an agent, but they will tell you they won't have more than them as an agent in this town. When I was in San Francisco before I moved down here, you could have multiple agents in San Francisco, which was kind of confusing. I'm not sure that is still the case. And because you can have different agents in different places, it can become a little confusing, especially if they send you the same copy and one gets there the day before the other one. And your main agent always wants you to favor them, which means your main agent needs to get you the copy first.
Nice. Go ahead and take one there, Dave.
Okay. Let's see. You kind of answered this a moment ago. How do you acquire international clients? How many do you have, and do you manage the time zone difference? I'm not sure I manage the time zone difference. It becomes an issue sometimes with teaching and with work. Usually with work, less hassle. But you find international agents by looking them up and submitting to them. And because it's such a small world now, I wouldn't be surprised, Michael, if you had some international voiceover friends that could give you referrals to agents in Europe and Australia, down under. So that is how that would work. The time zone difference, just you're either getting up earlier or staying up later to do the work.
Do your best.
Do your best. And now, if they're not insistent upon directing you, no problem. You do the work in the middle of your day and send it off.
I don't have any left here. I'll leave it to you.
Okay. Let's see. If you love an agency, as you say you did with SBV, what would be a reason to switch? And I did love SBV, and I still love them as an agency, although they are not my agency anymore. I think sometimes it's just time to move on. I think sometimes maybe an agent isn't taking you as seriously as you'd like them to, or pushing you in the areas that you would like them to, or maybe you felt like they didn't go to bat for you in the way you wanted on something. It could be any number of things. Or if your bookings drop, sometimes it has nothing to do with the agent. Maybe you're in a lull and you just got to shake things up. And one of the ways to shake things up is to get more auditions. And when you sign with a new agency, you get what they call the honeymoon period, where they're sending you a wider variety of auditions than you were probably getting from your other agent, because they're trying to get to know you and find out what you do well with, and maybe, offer you some opportunities in some areas that you might not have even known you might be good at, but maybe they heard something in you. So those would be reasons to switch. I have been in Los Angeles with 3 different agents, and I'd like to think I just re-signed with my current agent now, and I like to think that if something went wrong, or I could go back to my first agent or my second agent.
Hey, Dave.
Yeah.
When you said you resigned, that sort of gives me the feeling that there's a time length to this agreement. Are you resigning on a yearly basis?
Oh, this was a 3-year contract. They want to keep me around.
Okay.
But agents do a couple of different things. One, they might bring you in and hip pocket you, which means they're not signing you, but they're going to send you auditions and kind of see how you do. And that means they don't really have to put you on their books. You're free to do some other things, but you've got somebody interested in you and what you can do. And that's a good thing. You're new in the business, and this is your first agent. That's not a bad thing if they hip pocket you, especially if you start booking some things. Sometimes they'll sign you, and maybe only for a year. But if they really are hot to trot with you, wow, why did I come up with that? Use that phrase? Then they're probably going to want you to sign a 2 or 3 year deal. If they're really excited about working with you.
Thomas was just nice enough to mention that you can go to DaveFennoyCoaching.com if you wanted to book some time.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I do this because I like doing it, and I think it helps and all that. But, yeah, I teach, and people pay me money. So if you'd like some private lessons or to find out where I'm going to be teaching a workshop, you can visit DaveFennoy.com or DaveFennoyTraining.com. As a matter of fact, go to Dave Fennoy Training and sign up, and you'll get my PDF 6 Steps to Auditions, that book, and you'll find it's going to help you out a great deal. All right.
I've got none left.
Oh, I've got a couple more here. We only got about 10 more minutes. Are there any agents or portals that mentor or nurture young or inexperienced talent? Who, what, where, or perhaps people who target non-union voices? Well, there may have been a time that agents were out looking for talent. Those days are long gone. There are enough people knocking on their doors. The only thing they have to do is look in their email. So we've come to a situation where I think people are looking for reasons not to bring you in because there's just so many people knocking on the door. So you have to blow them away. And they're not going to have the time to mentor or nurture you as an inexperienced talent. That's up to you. I had somebody get in touch with me, and could they be my? They wanted me to mentor them, and it's like, well, I kind of sort of do that with my students, but they're paying for classes, and I had a very good friend. Once I offered to give voiceover lessons for free. He came twice because it was about a 10-15 minute drive from his house, and I had set aside an hour every week, and then he just stopped showing up, and I called, hey man, what happened? Well man, the drive, and it's every week, and I'm thinking, wow. I'm giving you this for free because we're friends. Clearly, he did not appreciate the gift.
We've seen this in every instance where someone knows a lot about something. You offer it to someone, and they just don't feel the same when they're not paying for the service.
Sometimes it's the disrespect of familiarity as well.
I agree.
Because I know you and we're friends, a lot of times you don't really get that this person that you know so well actually has the knowledge. I mean, you see that they're doing it, but there's something about that. I know often people who are super talented that you just know, somehow you missed it because they weren't trying to show that to you necessarily. They're trying to show it to the world. So they've probably made, oh yeah, I'm an actor, I'm a musician. And then when you finally hear them play or do their thing, you're like, wow, I had no idea. Because they weren't bragging and that kind of thing. I have been surprised sometimes by friends of mine who I didn't see them perform first. I didn't know about that. We met in some other situation, became friends, and then I saw or heard what they can do, and it's like, wow, I just had no idea. That happens, I think, a lot. Let's see. Any tips on how to stand out marketing-wise in a saturated market besides just being good? Well, you want to be good for sure, and your marketing needs to be good. Oh, God, I'm going to say the word. Your branding needs to be right. And when I say that, something in your messaging, something in what happens when people get to your website that lets them know who you are, and who you are, you've got to portray as the kind of voice that they need for their business, to help them tell their story, whether it's a business or e-learning or whatever it is. You want to know what it is people are looking for in the various genres, and then demonstrate in your branding and presentation that you are that.
Sounds good. Maybe time for one more.
Okay. Let's see. Well, maybe get a couple more in here. Hey, Chris. Okay. Hiya, Dave. When auditioning, should you slate your name, agency, and how many takes you do, assuming there are no directions saying not to? Well, follow the directions for sure. I typically say slate, and how many takes. But that changes sometimes. Sometimes they don't want you to slate. I have agents that say slate at the end. I have agents that say don't, just your name. We don't care how many takes, just don't say how many takes, just your name. Slate in the part you're playing. It varies. I don't get too hung up on it. Now, the one thing I am going to say, you don't need to, hi, this is so-and-so, thanks for listening to my audition, blah, blah, blah. Nobody wants to hear that. Just, if you can get away with just your name, which is most of the time, do that. Usually it's just Dave Fennoy, Dave Fennoy, Dave Fennoy. I try to do it someplace somewhat in the feel that the audition is going to be in. If it's a video game or animation, this is Dave Fennoy as, and then I'll maybe do that character voice. Or this is Dave Fennoy as so-and-so, 3 takes. But there are times that you do get those instructions, no slates at all or slate at the end. But don't get hung up on slates. Just make sure your energy is okay. You don't want to be, it's Dave Fennoy. You don't want that. Dave Fennoy. All right. Hey, Jackie Bales. Heather, what's going on? Harry. Okay, there's a Chaotica Eyeball endorsement with his blue microphone.
Yeah.
Hey, Leslie. Hi, Dave. Are there exercises you can do to drop your voice for certain reads? I'm not really a believer in, trying to change your voice to be something that it's not. We do some of that, in character work or playing monsters or this, that, and the other, or adding accents. But trying to change the pitch of your voice to be lower for one gig, I'm not sure I'm feeling that. I think you need to trust your voice. Trust where your voice is going to work. A lot of times guys feel like, well, if I'm going to play tough characters, my voice needs to be lower. And that's just not true. It's just not true. I have a medium-low voice, so, hey, I get to do that. My issue would be, gee, I need my voice to be higher so I can play the guy next door. But I see too many actors with high voices. Norton. What's his first name?
I'll go with Craig.
No, it's not Craig. I see too many actors that don't have low voices playing tough guys. And it's not in how low your voice is, it's in the attitude. It's all in the attitude. If you've got the attitude down, high voice, medium-range voice, low voice, you're going to be tough. You want to be friendly, a little bit of smile there, and once again, in the attitude. All right.
So we're 2 minutes away. You may want to be wrapping up shortly if you want.
Okay. I got to. Why did they use the from you? Perfectionism is the killer in so many words, but particularly this one. Absolutely. There is no such thing as perfection. Perfection to me is getting better all the time. I'll share somebody else's thoughts here. I don't know what she's going to say. Those are great 2 cents, Dave. For me, I'm at a point where I've been studying to do voiceover, yet with living in a rural environment in Canada, I have all the equipment for setting up my home studio, and I'm finally wanting to dip my toes in, train some more, and really crack down on my demo. My big thing is that I'd like to get some kind of opportunities just to get myself into and start the voice acting, even if it's not for pay and just for experience. Where should I be looking? And who should I be looking for? By the way, finally saw Black Panther.
Probably Bill DeWeese, our friend.
Bill DeWeese would be a good place to look for some training. Look for training here. I would go to the free sites first. Go to, Bill's website you can check out, my website you can check out, or YouTube channels, I should say. Lot of free information there. And in terms of work, you say you want to donate some things. Well, Services for the Blind. That's a great place to to get your work on and be doing a good deed at the same time. And I'm sure other than that, there's going to libraries or schools and reading for children, going to old folks' homes and reading stories to them. Anything that you can do where you are reading to people, telling stories, helping them with things like that, I think is a definite plus. Okay. I think we're going to about wrap it up here. Oh, it's 7:00. And yeah, that's going to be it. There was a question somebody asked me. Wrap it up with this one. It was a question I meant to answer from last week that I didn't get to. Do you ever have a word that you have problems with? And this gentleman was saying that there are certain words in a script that he has the same problems with those words all the time. And I'm going to say yes. And I think everybody probably does at some point in their career. There was a time for me when cellular would show up in a script. It was, there's that word, cellular. And over the years, what that word is that's a problem has changed. But I'm going to tell you this. It's psychological. We run into a word that gives us a problem, and we get it in our head that it's a problem, and it takes a little time, the battle with yourself psychologically, until you finally get over that word and you can say it. Cellular, 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 cellular. I can say it now. It shows up in a script. It's not a problem. And I'm not going to share with you the word that's bugging me now, but I'm going to overcome it. I'm going to win. Anyway, so that's it. Ask Dave Fennoy anything. Thanks again for joining me. Now, we'll be here next Wednesday. I'll be flying off to New York late Wednesday, but I will have time to do this before I go. In the meantime, all the best. Wishing you great success in your voiceover career. Bye-bye.